Hi, I'm Amanda, and I'm going to start off with the Cook and Buck Photo Voice article. I enjoyed the fact that the students were able to take initiative in their learning and to show what was important to them. I could see that this could help keep students' attention, especially students that often don't care as much about their work, but they might be more interested in this project because it's based on what they're thinking, which reminded me of the democratic curriculum theory that we talked about in the last learning activity. It's putting the students in charge of their own learning and the decision making behind it, which to me screamed democratic curriculum that we talked about. This would be beneficial for many kinds of learners, and then that they could work at their own pace and use images that are of interest to them. They would only take pictures of things they were interested in. Plus, they'd be up and moving around as they were gathering different photos from different places. Another style of learner I could see this appealing to would be an artistic one. The photos could just be of one item in particular, or it could be artistic in nature, what they photographed. Photography is a very artistic endeavor and would require practice depending on the type of photos the student was trying to capture. I could see this working in a middle school classroom, which is what they discussed in the article. It would be a little more difficult in my first grade classroom, I would imagine, trying to give them all cameras and have them take pictures of different things. I could think of a way that I could morph it into something for my 6 and 7-year-olds. We couldn't do maybe quite the same lesson, but if I were thinking outside the box, I could maybe link this to when we study nature and environment, littering, things like that. I could see my students taking photos of litter that they found outside, maybe on the playground or right in front of the school. And I could even see them, creating some sort of poster or something to show off to the school and warn of the dangers of littering. I think that would be a really fun activity, especially for my more gifted students. They would be better or more proficient on different computer programs. So I could maybe group some of my kids that struggle a little bit more with the computer with some of my more gifted students, and that screen differentiated instruction theory to me. That's encouraged by Frederick Burke. So I really enjoyed the activity behind this thinking, and I really tried to think of ways that I could integrate it into my classroom, even though it'd be a little bit more difficult. The next article that we read about I thought was really, really helpful and informative. It highlighted some things that I don't even think about when I'm searching out for good information. I know several parts of the website evaluation tool that I looked at. I knew maybe who created the page. I know to look at that. Is it a professional page in regards to the domain name .com, .org, .gov? I need to look at those things. Are there other links available to provide this information or to prove this information? I know that those are things that you have to look for, but there were some things that I never give much thought to when I'm looking for an article or resource. One example that I have to admit is whether or not the links on the page work. So if I go to a page and it has links on it, I don't always follow them, and so it might be good for me to start doing that. I love that idea on the on the website evaluation tool. I thought that was great. I also feel like I could pay closer attention to, are there multiple perspectives represented? I always pay attention to determine if an article contains bias and leans one way or the other, but I don't know if I necessarily notice if it gives different perspectives, and I think that's a great idea and something that I need to start looking for. I love how the rubric lays each important piece of information out and how students need to focus or teachers need to focus, and it's in a very organized fashion. I think it makes it really easy to read and follow along and just easy to check off each item when determining if an article is a good resource or if it's an ineffective resource. I feel like this would work with any type of research and not just scientific. So if I needed a good article for something for math, I think this would still be a great tool to use. For my physical resource overview, I chose the Pettit Preserve in Bartow County. It's an 80-acre area of land. It has a 9.5-acre lake. There's so many animals that live there. There's lots of hiking trails. And so I thought it was really neat that they already provided on their website. It says the first grade weather and the basic needs of plants and animal students. So they already took they had each grade level listed, and they had standards listed right beside it that would follow along with the activities that they're doing. I have been on this field trip and it was so much fun. It's $6 per child, so that may be more difficult for others, but I've not had in the past 4 years, I've not had a problem with this, and I've actually had several different parents who would sponsor another child if need be, and our school will always sponsor 1 to 2 per class, so we have always had everybody covered. We've never had an issue with that. One of the most fun activities that they do, and beneficial because it correlates to the standards in our classroom, is they have us go on a hike, and they have already put stuffed animals that they could see on this hike in this area. They've placed them throughout where we're going to hike, and each child will get a turn to say what animal they have just come upon, and different things about the animal, and that they would find that animal here in the Georgia woods, in the Northwest Georgia woods, and then they get to carry that animal down for the rest of the hike and to the spot, the next location of our next activity. My kids have loved this. They felt like they were really interacting during the hike instead of just being talked at. They were carrying that animal. They were answering questions. That was probably their favorite part of the trip. It was probably my favorite part of the trip. The last part that I wanted to talk about was the tech resource. The technological resource that I chose was MPING, which stands for Meteorological Phenomena Identification Near the Ground Project. It's an app, and it was created by the scientists at the University of Oklahoma. And really what it is they're just asking for different volunteers to submit information about different types of precipitation in your area. All you have to do is download the app at the App Store on your cell phone or tablet. You just type in MPING in the search bar, and it came right up, downloaded quickly and for free. It didn't seem to have any bugs, and it actually had 3.9 out of 4 stars, so I thought that was really good. What I really liked is in the About part, it talked about citizen scientists, and that we're all scientists, and it really broke it down. It made it really user-friendly because it also had definitions giving more information on different types of weather and weather hazards, and I thought that would be so great for my first graders to know exactly what they're looking for and what they're talking about, and getting definitions on those items. So I thought it really was geared towards kids. They inform the volunteers that they may spend as much or as little time giving their observations. There's not any set amount of time that you have to do. There are radars in all areas, and so the reason why we're doing this is there's radars in all areas, but they can't get close enough to the ground from a far distance. So they need people to give information regarding the precipitation they experience to help the scientists there create new and better algorithms for determining how to better warn everyone about weather and weather hazards. They value privacy for their volunteers, which is really good. And it would be important for your students in your classroom, or my students in my classroom. The only information they get from the observations is the latitude and longitude of the current location, because they have to know where you are to determine the weather there. And that's just through the GPS services on the iPad or the phone. In the classroom, we observe weather as part of our science standards, and I think the kids would love to submit our weather findings at different times of day, so I thought that would be really cool to show. They asked the volunteers to measure, for example, with a ruler, the size of hail, which measuring with rulers is one of our first grade math standards. And I would also get my kids to write about this. I mean, I think they would think it was really cool that they were scientists, and they could take us through the steps of what they were doing as they were being scientists. And lastly, all over the app, it shows tons of maps and map reading, and looking at different parts of the map, legends, keys, things like that, is also a social studies standard in first grade. So because all of those things were really overlapping in this one app, I thought it was really cross-curricular, which screamed the STEAM theory to me. I love how it integrated all of those things, and they just kind of flowed together. So I really honestly think I'll probably use this app in my classroom, because we are still talking about weather every day. So that's it. Thanks so much.